Welcome to the Robinhood Capitalists. Again, Jesus is still the reason for the season, so that's why that's there. It's going to be there all month. But I'm your host, DJ Flores. With me, of course, as always, my coach and mentor, Coach Stacy V, and yours, hopefully.
Yes.
Coach, how's your weekend? How's everything?
It was actually a really good weekend. You know how the weather was around these parts Sunday, so it got a little weather-wise a little iffy, but no, my daughter she was bringing the grand puppies for us to keep for a while, so she came Friday night and spent the weekend with us, and so now we got three dogs in the house. But it's always fun when the kids are around for a couple of days, and we made some food and things that we like to cook and had some fun and shopped a little with all three of us together for Christmas. So it was a very good weekend. How about you?
I love it. Did you catch that Browns game? Oh my goodness. What a
Yeah,
win. Joe Flacco, you're the man. You're the man, Joe.
they're gonna put a
That's what a
statue of
court.
Flacco out in front of the stadium.
Oh, it's already. I'll be screaming it from the top. That's what a real. Listen, front office, Cleveland Browns. Uh, you guys have been torturing me for life. This is what a quarterback looks like. He's 38. This is what he looks like, though, guys. This is what you want to find. I, how does this guy? I mean, he was just playing. It's crazy to hear the story. Like the whole story's nuts. Just the whole experience of it is even crazier. Especially when I hated seeing him on the other side of the field when we played him in Baltimore. So like it's amazing like to see him there. But again, just
Yeah,
unbelievable, unbelievable.
maybe he wasn't getting enough credit as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Oh, he was just a manager or whatever, but maybe
Yeah,
he deserved a little more credit.
maybe. And then,
If you can
coach,
win
I
at the
gotta ask.
Browns, if you can win in Cleveland, you can win anywhere. That's got to be
Right,
something special.
right, exactly. With all the injuries and everything else we have, yeah, it's insane. But and then I gotta ask you this: Elf on the Shelf. Have you dealt with this thing at all? Have you
Uh,
been part? Did
So
you
so
have?
I know what Elf on the Shelf is, but I'm incredibly thankful it came along after our kids were weren't in that stage of life. So because I think that would I don't know if I could keep
It's.
up. And I was traveling all the time. It would have been one more thing my wife would have to do that you're never here to help with this.
uh, I'm glad you said that because that's we avoided it for as long as we can. There was no call to the elves. It was, but Coop being of age and Oakley being right around. They Coop's like all my friends had it, so Mama made a call to the elves, and the elves are here, and it's yeah, it is an
Just remember,
experience.
you did this to yourself.
It is an experience. But yes, but so that was pretty much our weekend is planning out the elves and amazing Browns win, which was
Um,
crazy.
that to me, all joking aside, that sounds like a wonderful way to spend a weekend. That's pretty cool. Family, and football. That's two pretty cool ways to spend a weekend.
It is, and I'm so grateful for that. But want to get into so this week's been crazy already, and it's only Tuesday, but Monday was a fun-filled day that I kind of want to get into a little bit. But also want to give shout out to Gerard. Yesterday we got to meet with Gerard Marketing. He's obviously we're bringing the master marketing system (CRM) to us internally, but then also to any clients that we're working with, and I thought what did you think? How is it? I mean, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? He's probably more impressive than the system, and the system's really impressive. So when you combine the two, it's like an unbeatable combo.
I agree. I agree. Gerard is pretty amazing, and he's been in the game for a while. He gets it, as you got to see yesterday. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Very
glad for him to be part of all
good
of this for
experience,
us.
very confident, just a nice guy. He wants to help, which is that's what's in his heart is a heart of service. And everybody that watches us should know how we feel about that. So there was a natural attraction there just from his heart and the way he's a giver.
I agree. I agree. Well, Coach, let's get into this. We'll get the intro started. We're almost 5 minutes in, but yeah, we're just really what we want to go over today is we do have some big things on the horizon, especially with the new year. World kind of shuts down now, especially if you're in sales or any kind of business. You understand the game. This is when everything is still after the holidays. And so we do want to just set the stage for what's coming though, and we do have a big 13-week Think and Grow Rich program, thanks to Coach and his connections there with the Maxwell Foundation and stuff. So we get to roll that out to everybody, and to really kind of kick off the year. And we're going to get into at least one of my favorite principles of the book, and then this week is really going to be just about the principles, and then Thursday will be Coach's favorite principle, or one of his favorites from the book. We'll touch on, but just want to kind of get you ready and in the mindset, and then we do have some exciting things coming with that too. So
That's going to be fun. A good way to start the year.
oh man, I can't wait. I really can't wait.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
That's right, y'all. Don't stop until it's beautiful. I swear, this is every day is your chance to do that. So believe that. I believe in you. You need to believe in yourself, and that's
Every
really our
day can
goal
be a
here.
masterpiece.
Every day, every single day, isn't it?
So
I mean that.
you're asking about the weekend, and before I
Yeah.
forget,
No,
do you
go
hear
ahead.
that jet? I'm not even in Virginia Beach, and there's a jet going over.
That's weird
Yeah, that's weird for here.
because it didn't come from here. Because I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
hear
and
it.
I've got my window open because it feels good out right now. But at any rate, so when my daughter got here, she says, "So I was listening to the show on the drive, and it was called Jesus is the reason for the season. But you started out with Elon Musk throwing the f bomb. What's up with that?"
Hey,
and
listen.
so here's I just want to tell everybody, here's how this went down. We were going to finish our Elon Musk discussion. That was part of what we were going to do for the show already. Like 5 minutes before, my buddy DJ's got something laying on his heart. He says, "Hey, do you mind if we talk about Jesus?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a believer. Let's talk about it." So it kind of transitioned from there. But if you stayed with us, we DJ, you told your story, and it was obvious that it came from the heart. It's obvious that you've been on a spiritual journey. So maybe the beginning and the middle were a little off kilter, but it got where we were tracking for it to go. So if
Absolutely.
you miss some things, stick it out to the end, because DJ was telling his path from where he started to Jesus as a mentor at this point. So Jesus is the reason for the season.
Absolutely, and he is my mentor. And thanks for the plug for that. So, obviously, that's the whole reason for that show. And thank you for listening, to, Jennifer. Jennifer, right?
Megan, it was my
Megan.
daughter,
Okay,
Megan.
okay. But so, thank you, Megan. But literally, yeah, it was. Uh, JTH John Hewitt is hearing him say that Jesus was his mentor was like the biggest like boom. But then, whoa, okay, maybe that was mine. So that was where it kind of all came from, and the whole idea of even having him come on and around this season. Because again, I growing up the way that I did, and Coach, I think we got to share this a little bit, but growing up the way. I think there's a lot of families, especially now today. I mean, like let's be honest. We know what the world is like today. Everybody's either using credit cards or barely surviving. Most average people, and so they're going to force themselves to go into debt for an idea of a thing that doesn't even. That's not the reason for Christmas. The reason for Christmas is really just Jesus' birthday. Like that's just what it is. Like that's just the truth. And so I think there's a lot of that I think again, it was just a story to me that it was a journey, like you said. So thank you for that. And it really was, and I think it's a continued journey that's really what this game's about. Um, uh, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
yeah,
so for at least for
it's
the
great.
rest of the
It's great
month,
to be able to share.
it's gonna be interspersed into the things we talk about. We'll
Oh,
talk.
absolutely. It has to be. It has to be. This is the only reason for December 25th, y'all. It's Jesus' birthday. but anyway, so I want to really go into our principle and the whole Think and Grow Rich. So when you had gave this idea, I thought, man, obviously we talk a lot about books and the books that have changed us and guided us and certain principles and philosophies. And I got to share through some of the stories of, you know, the eat the pickle and that stuff. And we're getting into some of those other ones that I really have been the foundation of what I at least kind of go off of. But one thing I shared yesterday, and I think that's, I don't, with Gerard when we were talking, and it hit me with the whole, again, John Hewitt. And I mean, John's been a part of a lot of you and a lot of the connections from David Perez to EVK to, and he's been involved and been a huge, and you hear in sports, and we talked a lot about football, but that's where I was like, okay, they talk about coaching trees and, oh, well, they can't, well, he learned under this guy and he learned under, and it sounds really cool in sports, but nobody really thinks of that for philosophy or idea or business or life. And I mean, that's what a mentor is a coach. That's as what Jesus was a teacher, a mentor. I mean, he's supposed to be your friend if you see the movie The Shack. Thank you, John. But it was, he's not this dictator telling you you're doing wrong all the time.
Well, and Gerard pointed it out when you made the connection between a mentor tree and a coaching tree. He's like, yeah, that's good, and I think you're right. And even in the space that we're talking with things like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, when you look at everything that's followed, when you look at people like Bob Proctor and Paul Martinelli and a lot of the folks out there, Tony Robbins, you look at a lot of it and you know where these philosophies came from. And then you look back before Napoleon Hill, and a lot of these philosophies existed even way, way, way before that. And so the tree, it's a big tree with deep roots. And so when we get into it, the way that we're going to come from this is to show you the science, the realness. So it's not fluff, it's not woo woo or anything like that. It's that we're gonna just talk about how the universe works. I'm not gonna try to explain it, but I'm gonna tell you how this is how the universe works. And
I don't really know the answers. I don't think anybody knows the answer. I think that's the greatest thing. Once you realize that, I shared this the other day, but one of the most powerful but greatest quotes is, once you realize you know nothing, like it's easier that way. Like the humility is easier to find. The pride is easier to let go of, and the ego doesn't exist if you just realize you know nothing. Like
the great thing is I don't know who said this first, but they say success leaves clues, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to dig into the clues that have been left by other successful people and chart the course for you, and that's what the whole thing is going to be about.
And honestly, Coach, the whole coaching tree idea came from you, because as we, throughout the now 7 or 8 months we've been doing this, you've always said that to me. Hey, well, of course, it sounds a lot like these principles because they all tie back to that. And it's like, you're right. Like every single person, there's always a, Zig Ziglar led me to Brian Tracy, they're all tied with the same, and they just are growing on. But I think I think once we realize that's what actually this game is about, then that's where you start to be more comfortable to take the risk or to make the mistakes to learn. And that was one of the greatest things, again, from John, was his big thing that I picked up. And I was talking about this before we went live, but I observe more and watch, especially if I think or want to be in, again, from sales and going back to H. Gregg, is find the top person and see what they do. Okay, that's easy. Find them. They're doing what I want to do or where I want to be. I'm going to watch them. And so watching John and being just blessed with, 7 months of pretty much working with him and behind him, it was crazy. But to see how it all works, I mean, that's where it kind of feeds to my favorite principle of the Think and Grow Rich, is number 9, which is the power of the mastermind, or the third mind. And he basically explains, like, when you're masterminding, and the whole benefit to just sharing stories, ideas, and talking is through the ideas and through the conversations. It really does feel like, and I've had so many conversations, it feels like there is a third mind all of a sudden, or just this idea comes like pow out of nowhere. And that's where I seen from John. He was always willing to take conversations. That's one of the big things everybody says about John is, hey, you can get a hold of him, but he's very intentional with his time, and that's where I think is very smart too. And again, learn to be very intentional. 30-minute meetings don't need to be. If it's 2-minute meeting, perfect. Whatever needs to be said, just say, and let's figure it out. But and that's
Yet
that's what I kind of learned
coming
from John
coming
as
from the
well.
world, coming from the regular world where meetings were long, laborious, wasted time. When I first got to Liberty, and people kept saying, my peers kept saying, "Oh, I had a meeting with John. I had a meeting with John." And in my head, I'm like, "Well, I've never spent more than 5 minutes with the guy. I don't. I must be doing something wrong. How do they have meetings? I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a meeting."
I
Uh,
thought the same thing. I thought, man, I feel like he doesn't like me now. He's only using a few letters now, ty or y, and I'm like, oh
yeah,
crap.
yeah. The emails were the biggest lesson, or one of the biggest lessons. But man, it was just crazy, learning that intent and that level of intent on managing time.
Mm,
That was a really good lesson.
yeah,
That was a good lesson. But back to your mastermind idea. What you described is exactly the way a mastermind works. And again, I'm not going to try to explain the mechanics of it, but when you get a bunch of people in the room that are open and sharing and honest and vulnerable and all of the things that we need to be in a room full of people, the ideas that can come from that group is just incredible. It's what makes a strong inner circle. It's one of the, Maxwell's 21 laws of leadership is the law of the inner circle. It's what makes it so powerful. That becomes your mastermind, where you put things out there. From the Stephen Covey standpoint, he would say that it's you come in with your ideas, I come in with my ideas, and what we tend to do is you stick to yours, I stick to mine, and we don't really get anywhere. But
hmm
if we were really sit down and put our heads together, there's a third way that's better than anything that we could come up with individually if we just work at it. That's
exactly.
what the mastermind can do, is find that third way and get the creativity out.
Absolutely, and I got to see that in full force. Again, I want to give a shout out to what I think we're coining now as the BNI COVID Connections Real Estate Roundtable, but they're basically the power team from my BNI group. But it's Tracy Fink with Fink and Associates Insurance, so they do goosenecks, so they're not a captive, but they get to play the game, which is amazing. If you're with a captive agent, find an independent agent, or like Goose said. Yeah, that's the way to go. And but
My family experience was all captive, and it worked out pretty good.
it was no, of course, but it's just crazy to see that because she showed me some of the systems and stuff, and it was a lot like freight brokering LTL, where you kind of,
Oh
and it's like, wow, yeah, it's powerful, that's awesome. And so
yeah,
so shout out to
yeah.
her.
She's That's power. It is powerful, and I can't wait to get them on the show here so we can dig into all the different pieces to that puzzle they have. Because the way we've talked, I know they can do anything,
They
and
can,
that's
they can, and oh my gosh, they use a Salesforce on steroids. But they literally have. So anybody out there, if you're in between CRMs or not, again, don't go to the big guys like Salesforce unless you have a Salesforce team, because that's what Tracy said. That Goosehead actually literally has an on-site Salesforce team, because that's how in-depth Salesforce is. So if you need something simple, you're a smaller business, Gerard Marketing with the master systems. That's the way to go. But yeah, it was literally on steroids. It's insane to see. But so Tracy Fink getting to share some of this stuff. Again, we shared when Johnny was on the show, but I did storm chasing, so I understand working with agents and adjusters in that game, and so she kind of has the same view that I had, which was nice to hear, because it felt like there's a lot of in that game. There's a lot of butting heads, but she had similar opinions on that too, with the
so.
adjusters.
Let,
And
let's let's get a good definite plug here, because what you've done is you're helping them create or at least work with their show and you're hosting, right?
yeah,
And asking a roundtable, kind of leading a roundtable. What's the name of the show?
Yeah, so it's going to be the BNI COVID Connections Real Estate Roundtable, and so we're really just showing the power of BNI and power teams, networking groups, again, like Chamber of Commerce, those kind of things. The reason you guys think those are boring and don't work is because you really, first off, I think we talked about this in one of our shows a while ago. show, but not going all in and being really fully engaged and wanting to. Tony Robbins, full immersion. Like you have to burn the boats, be all in, believe it's going to work, and believe it. But and so BNI really kind of, and that's where a lot of people that don't like that vibe, they think they call it a cult or something different. But it's even to the next level. The weekly meetings are just very. They do seem very monotonous, very the same, very repetitive. But that's where a lot of folks don't get the true value of BNI is the power teams and good chapters like what we're creating with the COVID connections is they're the real estate power team. And so it's our realtor who is Kim Finley. It's Grace White, who is our mortgage, and so she's with Southern Trust Mortgage. And then Tracy Fink with the insurance. But then obviously even home services are great to be a part of that power team too, like your heating, cooling, your that stuff. And so with these,
So you got realty, mortgage, and
yep,
insurance.
yep, and that's the crazy world that's going on. So they got to really, and it was so we got to film our first episode with them yesterday, and to see the mastermind first off, but then to see how nervous they were. Tracy and Grace especially were very nervous. Now Kim does a lot of content already creation for her brokerage, but so she was kind of okay with it. Grace and Tracy had to get a little more comfortable. But about 20 minutes in, it was nice to see like they totally forgot. And shout out to Bo and DeSale Media. They're part of our little agency group. Bo's passion is podcast, so he's actually helping me kind of spearhead that, help them grow that. Didn't really think I was going to be helping other people create podcasts, but it's amazing to do. It's fun to do, and actually, it was shout out to Grace. I mean, you're really her testimony today, or her testament today in BNI. She was like, I was so nervous, but then once I got in, and then once I really got to understand it, I can't wait to do this more and share like who we are and just build our what we can do and build the community of people who can just. And I'm like, yes, you get it. Like that's really what it is. It's just being able to build your own personal brand, but also just share who you really are. And that's kind of the message I left them with, and really let them do most of the talking. But
Yeah, people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust, and what better way than to give through content like that. So during the show yesterday, what kind of things, what kind of topics were you talking about?
oh man, so Kim is on fire. So she's shout out to Kim. I mean, Kim is really the producer behind it all. But she had some headlines, so she wanted to focus on the scary headlines. And then she said, even
That's good.
even if you got into the one that she broke down, which was I think on Forbes, and she said this is Forbes, and if you read it though, there's 17 different points of actually why it's not scary, it's good, but they just are scaring people with the headline. And I'm like, listen, this is the greatest example to share over this whole message if we can. But this is the game, guys. Fear sells. I mean, that's what they're going to do. It's all about scaring the hell out of you any way that they can, because you're going to click it even faster. And that's just what works. But it's
That's a
again,
good concept. So a few weeks ago, when did the reverse, we were actually down at my daughter's house, and we went to her church, and they had been doing a series on, they called it Headlines and God's Lines, and they were contrasting the two,
I like that.
because the headlines are scary, right?
Oh, it
And
was
on the
totally
real
scary.
estate side right now, the real estate side would scare you from even looking at a house that's available if you watch the news too
Well,
much.
and that's what was I mean, they were playing with that and kind of went around their own views of that from each side, which was cool to see. So from the mortgage side was different than the insurance side. The insurance is crazy right now, guys. If you're wondering what's going on with insurance, I can't wait to have Tracy on. I mean, Coach. I don't know if you got to see. She showed me this like breakdown of how even all the companies in the insurance world are doing, and basically. Again, I'm stealing a little thunder from the show, but it'll probably be so it is an edited show. So obviously we do these live, but we are me and Coach are going to have some edited and pre-recorded ones that'll come out here next year as well, just like this one. But so that's where Bo and his team is going to edit it. So it'll probably be out later this month. But she shared gold with. I guess she has, in the insurance world, they know how every company is doing with this chart. She said there's literally only one company that's actually bringing on customers and making money. Everybody's either bringing on clients and losing money, a lot of money, or lose. Like, it's crazy to hear her kind of explain that whole world of it. And so it makes a lot of sense. And then even uh, hearing the relationship in the world behind the realtor side and the mortgage, where Kim was like, because of rates and different things and the craziness still of it all, she said it's starting to slow down, but there was literally, you'd go from week to week with having to call your mortgage like, hey, can they still afford this house, or does it need to be a different house? And again, going from a $300,000 house to 275 is different school areas, different, you're talking a lot of different things. And so, yeah, it was crazy to hear. So I was honored to just be able to soak up the knowledge of it all. But yeah, it was, I can't wait. I can't
Yeah,
wait
I
for
mean,
them to share it. I can't wait.
I don't want to. I mean, this isn't the time, but seeing some of the graphs of where home pricing and rent and some of the different places that this market is trending, um, I can't wait to hear some of these answers. So when are you going to post the
Yeah,
recordings?
so so Bo and his team already shared some just some photos that were taken, like background while we were recording. So we'll probably share those and start to plug those. But I think so. Bo, again, his team, they have so many podcasts they're editing and getting right now. He's so booked. So thank you again, Bo, for doing that with us. But yeah, it was end of the month is when they should have the final episode
Cool,
out and ready. And then
cool.
yeah, then they do
Well,
plan to do. And shout out to Scott Carson. Thank you. Scott, he's going to be on the show here soon, but he has a nationally recognized We Close Notes, and he has a program podcast that he does called
note
the
closer.
note closer show. So if y'all have seen that at all, but of course, Rena and our great friend Rena got connected me with him yesterday, and he gave us some insight to some podcast benefits and world there. But just giving dude really wanted to give, and he even, yeah, I told him about the real estate roundtable, and he said, "Well, tell them if they get to 10 episodes, I'll be a guest." And I planted that seed to them, and they're like, "Okay, well, yeah, we definitely want to have him on. So, okay, we're going to do 10 at least." And so it's just exciting to see people who aren't really, again, BNI is kind of a we had some new members today, and there are the usual that are very not either used to networking, so very nervous to talk. And that's some of the benefits are very unspoken of BNI, and even like the Toastmasters and that stuff. But being able to do this or talk in front of people or talk to public speaking, those kind of things, you have no idea how beneficial and how powerful that is.
So the folks who say that it's not beneficial, I didn't get anything out of it. Don't you think they went into it thinking they could just write the check and it would do the work for them?
I think that's exactly what it is, and I think here's what I'll tell you. I think you can boil down people, and I'll keep saying this. There's team players, and there's the what I call running gunners, or the solo stars. And you're either one or the other. And I think the sooner you figure that out, the easier. Because I think the solo stars, the running gunners, they don't enjoy the networking stuff. So they don't really get the value out of networking that true team players do. And I think that's really what it comes down to. And again, maybe I'm being extremely bold with that, but I just think that's what it is. And so
So the ones who get into a BNI and they really work the one to ones and they form these power groups and things, that's how you can make it
it's
work.
it's
The
priceless.
just going and eating the meal and leaving doesn't really get you anywhere.
Yeah, and that's, but again, it's such a, there's not many great options out there when it comes to networking or networking groups, or even masterminds. So actually, I'll plug this since we're talking about it. But uh, Gary C. Laney has Strategic Business Leaders Mastermind, which is more high level, kind of the pre board companies that maybe your vision is to grow to having a board of board members one day. That it's kind of a group like that. and he wants this.
Now he had success starting another mastermind company,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So he started there, and that's John. And that was the 7 Degrees of John. But so he actually connected me to Gary first to about his networking or his strategic business leaders. And actually, that's what I was going to talk to you about after, but about possibly because we're so close. You're really actually only 45 minutes from me. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're really close. So
Made that drive 1,000 times, or a million times, or whatever the number
yeah,
is.
so we'll have to talk about that off. But I love what he's doing with that. I think that's so needed because I think that's that next level of BNI. You have the again, so to put it in your terms, or uh, maybe some small business owners or anybody who follows the show, somebody who just is starting a business to work in the business mostly. So they just created a job that they have a passion for, that they want to be have a high salary and kind of control their destiny. Those are the self-employed, nothing wrong with it. That great. Those are the BNI level, but the people who really want to grow and the John Hewitts that see the boards and see the bigger vision of taking it bigger. That's where that strategic business leaders and that mastermind, I think, is just Jesse Kaiser gave the greatest example of how that is just power. I mean, getting the right group of local business leaders that have that vision, like Jesse talked about with the the multi franchise.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
I can still see how excited he got when every idea. Oh, it came from the multi-franchise. We had the group going, and we're going around the room. Yeah, but
and
that's how you started. That's why we started talking about masterminding and Think and Grow Rich. It works. Again,
it
I
works. It
can't tell you
works.
scientifically how it works, but it works. If you work it, it works.
When I think that's just it. I think it's if anything, and again, I try to figure out how to make it more simple than it already sounds. But like you have to go in with an open mind, and I always think of like the Buddha. I don't know if it was Jay Shetty or whoever, but talks about the Buddha who a younger Buddha goes in and goes to the master Buddha and says, "I've been meditating and it doesn't work. I just keep this, or whatever." And the master is sitting there pouring tea and it's running over the cup. And the young Buddha was like, "What are you doing? Like it's pouring over." And he's like, "This is you. You're the cup. You don't have. You're not open enough. There's not enough room for anything to go in." And I think that's what most people they already have these ideas that it's not going to work. And if you don't think it's going to work, it's not going to work. Like it's just not going to work.
On the one-to-one level, coaching is the same way. Because the way it works is, if you're the coachee, you do the work, you do the study, you think on your own. Then we get together as coach and coachee and we talk it through. And what most people tell me is like, I can read it, I can study it, I can do the questions, and the answers aren't there. But once we start talking it through, then the answers somehow come. I don't know how this works this way, but it works. It's the same thing.
It,
It's a smaller scale, but it's the same thing.
it's
It takes the thought, though. You have to put in the planning, the thinking, the processes, and then
it
a
has
good
to be
coach.
intentional. It has to
It
be
has to be
extremely
intentional,
intentional. Yeah,
and a good coach or a good mastermind group will then elicit the answers that are already in here. We just have to get them out.
yeah. Yeah, and that's why I mean, obviously, there's so many amazing. Obviously, number 5 principle, imagination, is it's something I feel like I was blessed with. So I love that one too. But really, this was the one that when I again going through the whole Earl Nightingale Think and Grow Rich and him just breaking down the principles, it was like, yeah, mastermind is the one for me. That it's when you can get with people and they just all want to share ideas and again, I had a kid just the shout out to Trent, but Trent Tulia, he's going to be taking over. So Freight 101, you're getting a new co-leader. Thank you, Trent. But so I have the Freight 101 group that I started, and I realized, like I told Trent, I love the industry. I really fell in love more with the purpose and I guess the guilt that I had as a freight broker for the drivers and the sacrifice that they give, that they're away from their families all the time. That's the only reason I really created the group. But so find out that his dad was a driver for a long time, and that's why he became a freight broker and then has a freight broker training that he's going to be sharing with y'all. But yeah, it's when he reached out and it was like, hey, I have this idea. I have a business idea. I'm like, hey, let's talk. What are you talking about? And he talked about just taking over and working on with the group. And I'm like, yes, I'd love. Please, it's such a benefit there. I mean, it's such a great community. I don't want it to just sit. So I try to share what I can, but I'm not in the industry. So yeah, thank you,
Well,
Trent.
a
I'm
big
glad.
part of what a masterminding will do is to keep your awareness in a place so that when those opportunities are there, you actually see them, because the opportunities are always there. It's
Mhm.
just we're not in a place up here that we can see them. Then the next level is, now that you see the opportunities, is to discern which one is within your plan of where you're trying to go, and that's why we have to have great clarity and intention. But he'll cause masterminding the driving force. And the passage that I highlighted is the psychic phase of the mastermind principle is much more abstract, much more difficult to comprehend, because it has reference to a spiritual forces with which the human race as a whole is not well acquainted. You may catch a significant suggestion from this statement: no two minds ever come together without thereby creating the third invisible and tangible force, which can be likened to the third mind.
I mean, and it's so deep, it's so spiritual, it sounds woo woo, and I think that's where people get lost in it. But it really is just, I think it's just the connect, it's the vibrate, it's just the whole, again, the vibration, the connection, the everything. It really does, like he says, it's almost like magic, because it just pow, like will come almost like from somewhere else. It really does. I mean, it really does. It's so weird. But it does. If you're with the right people, with the right groups, it'll change your life.
The other word that comes up like 6 or 8 times, I've got it highlighted a lot, maybe that's 10 times, is the word harmony. It's about
Mm,
finding that harmony, in spirit of harmony for your definite purpose, harmony for a limitless time, harmony for any length of time, uh, together in a spirit remotely resembling harmony. It just continually talks about finding. So a lot of it too is about finding, because in this context, harmony is kind of like finding peace.
yeah. Well, and it's the peace, but it's also the peace you feel. It's the unknowns that you're feeling, but you don't know. Again, going deeper, but the Dr. Joe experience. Anybody who knows Dr. Joe, I mean, they talk about these experiences that happen, but I think it's the same thing as church. I think that's why church is so powerful. If you go there with the right idea, and everybody has, and it's a good church with the right vibe, you get something there because of just the energy, the vibe, the unspoken things that are there. And that's the same thing with Dr. Joe's retreats that he does. And they talk about people getting sight for a little bit, these crazy, sounds crazy things, but I think that's really just the power of love. Honestly, in the end, it's that vibration of that, and just everybody kind of feeling it at the same time. When the harmony, like you said, I mean, that's once you got everybody's feeling the same harmony, I think that's where the magic happens.
That word comes up a lot, man, in that chapter. That's a big part of the chapter. Every time you talk about Dr. Joe, when I was growing up, we had a family doctor, and it was in the country. So his name was Dr. Joe, and so every time you say that, I think about my Dr. Joe. He came to my house. I went to his house. It was like old school, real family doctor back then.
See,
Uh,
I love that. See, we need to go back to that. That's one. I think that's where they're going with Steph.io. That's what I told them, at least. I'm like, hey, you're kind of bringing back the home doctors. Good. I like that. So yeah, hey, Dr. Joe, yeah, we need you back in the house.
and most people think I wear hats a lot because there's no hair, but I've been wearing hats since I was a kid. He went to Wake Forest. I'm an NC State fan from birth, and I was always wearing state hats. And so every time I'd see him, once I got to the teenage years, he goes, "Do you ever go anywhere without that damn hat?"
Oh, that's so funny. So another connection, obviously, but yeah, I've always worn a hat. I had the thickest, craziest hair, uh, but always wore a hat, and
Well, I told the story
So,
about, knowing my wife since first grade. Her mama, since I was in grade school, has been saying, "You keep wearing that hat, you're gonna go bald." So now 40 some years later, she's like, "I told you. I told you."
it's, my uncles told me the same thing. My uncles would say the same thing to me. You keep wearing that hat, you're gonna go bald. Look at my hair. Oh, I need it to thin out. Now I feel bad. No,
So
no.
looking back, we had good mentors we didn't listen to.
Yeah, exactly. Coach, this is so fun. I obviously want to wrap this up, but Thursday, can't wait to get into your principal. And again, we do have some live events. So we do have the Think and Grow Rich program that we're going to start having some marketing and stuff out there, guys. So if you are interested or want to register, and for that program, it's 13 weeks. It's really a head start for the year to just get your mindset right and kind of get on track for these principles and just have them be hopefully a repetitive to help you make 2024 your best. But
Yeah, and you're not gonna find a deal better than this anywhere. So
no, not a chance, not a chance. And on top of that, we do want to really to get you ready for it. We're gonna have some live events here throughout the next couple weeks. Prior to that, just maybe doing some brief principles and going over just some other things that we got from Think and Grow Rich that maybe don't have to do with the program itself. Other things like this that we got. But this book again, it's talked about everywhere. Young kids to old, everybody. I mean, the book was written in the 1930s. It's still, all of the principles are relevant today.
deeply influenced by the Depression, and so we can talk about good times and bad times because it works regardless.
Yep, exactly. And that's and maybe this is what we need, y'all. But yeah, this is again 2024. I really just hope that more people start to take the risk, believe in themselves, and just grow.
Yeah, find that purpose and live into it.
Yes. So, Coach, any final thoughts? And let's until Thursday.
Yeah, no, that was it for me. We're gonna help you find your purpose and help you live into it and grow into it, and that's our path to heaven on earth.
Till Thursday, guys. Feed the good wolf.
I'm always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just an